Every SaaS founder aspires to scale. But how do you scale? Between people, processes, and technology, how do you know when to scale what and yet be efficient in your scaling? Let's look at an example of if you were to operate an airlines, how would you evaluate between people, processes, and technology and then scale? The first step is to check what are the minimum set of resources required for operations. Now, in case of an airline, you obviously need the aircraft, you need the pilot and co-pilot, and you need a set of cabin crew. You also need the ground staff. Now, that's the minimum requirement. What is the optimum requirement for a single aircraft? You probably need three sets of pilots and co-pilots, the cabin crew, as well as the ground staff. That's because the more time the aircraft spends in the hangar, you're losing money. As long as you can keep it in the air with three sets of crew, pilot, co-pilot, and the ground staff, the more efficiently you're running your operations. So the first thing that you need to do before adding more aircrafts is to ensure that you're running your operations at the optimum by having three different sets of pilots, co-pilots, ground staff, and the cabin crew so that they can work in three shifts and ensure you can keep the aircraft up in the air versus having it spend more time in the hangar. With every new aircraft that you add, this kind of becomes the optimum level of people or resources that you need to add. When do you scale the operations? When do you add new aircrafts? That's when you check for your occupancy rate and the route feasibilities. If your current aircrafts are running at a certain level of occupancy rate, let's assume 85% or more is the benchmark of the industry, that's when you would add more aircrafts, not when you're struggling to even achieve a minimum required occupancy rate for your current aircrafts. And then you would obviously evaluate the market by testing or checking for the route feasibilities, the traffic requirement demand versus what would it mean if you were to add newer aircrafts to newer routes and so on. And now, factoring the same for a SaaS business, what are your growth pillars? People, processes, and technology. Between people, processes, and technology, when would you add people versus when would you scale processes or revisit the processes, or when would you scale or modernize, update your current tech stack? So let's take sales as an example under SaaS. To grow sales, would just be adding new sales reps be enough? For that, you need to understand where your current sales are coming from. It needs sales reps. These sales rep needs leads. Each of these leads come from a few different sources. That kind of results in demos, and then the demos result in acquiring new customers, which is new revenue. Now, the variables that you have lead sources leading to a certain amount of leads, leading to a certain number of demos, and then these demos being handled by your sales rep, resulting in new customers and new revenue. So if you were to evaluate or consider adding new sales reps, you must first look into your lead sources, your cost per lead, the lead to demo ratio of each of these sources, and the lead to closure ratio as well. And then also further evaluate the cost per demo and the customer acquisition cost of each of these sources. So you get an understanding of, the cost per lead, and more importantly, cost per demo, and the most important factor, customer acquisition cost. So it's not the easiest of the lead sources that you scale. It is the most efficient lead source that you must be scaling. So the one that ultimately results in the least customer acquisition cost and the one that has highest lead to demo ratio. And then you must evaluate if your current sales reps are handling as many demos that they can. So for instance, if they can handle 5 to 6 demos a day, Are they handling that optimum number of demos? If they are not, if they are only doing one or two demos a day, you must first focus on keeping them busy, giving them more leads and scaling your lead sources as opposed to adding more people per se. So this kind of gives you a perspective of in a SaaS business, if you were to scale, how do you evaluate your people, processes, and technology? See if it is first operating at an optimum performance, and then scale the divisions or pockets that are already operating at an optimum level. If they aren't, if they are underperforming, or if they are operating under the efficiency level, first figure out and work towards bringing them up to the efficiency mark and only then scale.